And good afternoon, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor, and we are back once again for our COO Roundtable discussion for current and future healthcare leaders. I'm joined today by Dr. Ryan Sedigian, both a medical physician, pediatrician. He has his MBA and currently in law school, but he has a great passion for information technology and healthcare systems, has been utilizing that in some form and fashion for over a decade. He has come to my FACI prep classes and helped out getting, raising awareness and getting people to understand what it is all about. This is one of these areas that, as I work with individuals across the value stream of healthcare, on both the manager level into the C-suite, there's still not enough awareness of what is taking place and the speed that things are changing. I've always said, listen, healthcare is phenomenally good at collecting data, but pretty lousy on utilizing the data to drive advancement and innovation, and of course, quality care for our patients. So I hope that you will join us today in conversation over the next 30 to 45 minutes, as we're going to be looking at it in a series of slides highlighting topics. And again, Ryan is going to help us make sense out of that and point you in the right direction on where you need to continue to do some further studies, some reading, maybe a TED Talk, but don't stop learning. And that's really the key thing. So Ryan, thank you for joining me in conversation today. I'm always grateful to learn from you, as I've done in the past. And why don't we just dive right into it? Before we get started, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're currently, what you're doing, and what your interest specifically is in the IT world?
Sure. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, everyone. It's always good to join this type of call and your effort in helping our leaders and our enthusiasts to learn about technology and also leadership in our, in your FASHA class. I'm currently Chief Medical Information Officer at the University of Toledo Health. And prior to that, I had similar positions across the country, including Chief AI Officer. And my work has been on machine learning and artificial intelligence back to over a decade ago through NIH and biomedical informatics program at the University of Pittsburgh. And for the past 3 years, really focused on incorporating the technology, not only in physician workflow, but also on the patient experience. And I'll be happy to share some of it today.
Excellent. Look forward to that. And again, thank you for all the great work you do on a day-to-day basis. So we might as well dive into the deep end around emerging technologies, doing a quick overview of what AI, machine learning, blockchain is all about. And like you said, there was some basic machine learning go back 10, 15 years ago. Suddenly that has been put on steroids. So take us down on a journey on where you started and to where we are today, and what we have to look forward to going into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, from the operational perspective, when we look at the technology, many, many years ago, especially organizations like University of Pittsburgh, who were pioneers in this clinical decision support back to even the 70s, they really look at how we can, operationalize this type of technology in our practice, but also impact our clinical and non-clinical operation. So these transformative technologies, especially at the speed of light that we're seeing, almost at an explosive mode, are really redefining business operation and decision making. I just had a conversation with our COO this morning, and I said the same thing. I said AI and machine learning really enhances some of the predictive analytics that we never had before, or it was very manually driven. By using those, really allow an organization to anticipate trends and improve outcomes, right? We talk about blockchain. So the blockchain ensures transparency and security, particularly in industries like finance, the big part of our healthcare, post-COVID, challenges with reimbursement. Again, another part of my job working with the chief financial officer. So these technology and IoT really enables real-time monitoring, driving operational efficiency. And I believe this explosion, this AI explosion, is a testament for the organization to start resetting some of their operational work and try to align with what the technology is going to bring to the organization.
So thank you for sharing that. And that's one of my greatest concerns as I work with emerging leaders and more senior leaders, that there's still a pretty significant gap, that they're kind of going along with it. They're not quite understanding on the implications of AI and machine learning, and how this can advance not only quality of care, but also really help with the bottom line, right? Cost. So what would you say to a COO today, or somebody who wants to be in that particular role? What should they, where can they gain more knowledge and experiences? Should they take a class? Should they go on YouTube or listen to clips? Or what is your recommendation for them to gain the knowledge necessary to be more effective in their current roles?
So I would say it starts from the basics, right? Because we all have a different understanding of technology. And, in an organization, a CEO has number of, you know, what I call them VP. So your CFO is your VP of your finance. So your CIO is your advisor to the IT. So it is somewhat difficult in a sense that there's so much information out there. But the question is, what I would tell the CEO is that look at your short-term and long-term strategic goals over the next 3 to 5 years, and using those advisors that you have to help you understand where AI would fit into your strategic goals. And if your strategic goals do not have anything that AI would be able to assist you, then they would need to revisit that as strategic goal.
Yeah, interesting. So, and I would like to add to that is, I think that the days of having a CIO being a supporter to the operations, I think that the partnership between the COO and the CIO needs to become even tighter. Simply for the fact is that they truly can enhance and help you understand. Listen, we can all be experts at everything that is out there, right? And the COO is really an organizer of thought that can bring the wisest people together around the table in order to be able to put things into play. Yeah, adjusting our mission, vision, strategy for the organization, and partnering is a really key to that. So you talked a little bit about blockchain, and that is something that security is paramount. We know that there are not hundreds, not thousands, but there are millions of minor attacks in the cyber world on a daily basis. And if you ask a CIO today, what keeps you up at night? It's not necessarily AI, but it is security. So talk a little bit about what is about security trends today, and what the role of a COO would be to ensure that we have the resources available to make to enhance security features going forward.
Sure. I mean, that's a very good question because, oftentimes, as a CMIO of the system, I'm kind of like a gatekeeper between the entire administration to our CIO. And so when we have a new projects and, we have some capital expansion project, and it comes to all these third party vendors that they sound amazing, on a paper, um, but they have a hard time passing through our IT security process. I had one vendor the other day, and one of the chairmen says, why this university has this vendor, which is a lot larger than us, and we can't have it. And that's exactly goes back to the point you raised, which I have to talk with our operating officer, that listen, the cyber threats are evolving as rapidly as technology. They use the same technology and AI in a different direction that we use in providing care, right? From ransomware to phishing, the need for robust cybersecurity is more urgent than ever. Statistics shows that about 38% increase in cyber attacks, this year. So emphasizing the importance of proactive defense mechanisms. So we talk about best practices, which includes zero trust architecture, right? We talk about continuous monitoring and employee training. We have, all this is staff that we want to get our patients, for instance, on Epic MyChart, and we get staff coming in, students or volunteer with the high turnover. One of the conversation we said, that's great to get them on MyChart, but with this amount of turnover or this level of employees, we can't just get everybody access that easily to just because we're trying to improve our patient experience, but we're also have to be cognizant of this. So it is quite a hot topic, and I cannot think of any week that there's got to be an email or a conversation that we're talking about vendors and whether or not they're passing our IT security process or not.
Yeah, and I want to remind people that IT security is not just IT's problem, right? This is every single person's problem in the organization, and we have seen these very advanced phishing expeditions that emails from your director, your manager, your boss, for that matter, that looks just like them to unlock that door through the back door to get to access to information. So it is a problem for everybody. So I see the role as the COO to always talk about this stuff, not just once a year. But they need to talk about this continuously and making sure that everybody is aware that this is a real threat to patient safety and to potential, poor, a loss of data, which is exceptionally expensive to the organization and can tarnish that brand as well. All right, so let's go to the next one topic: cloud computing. I remember no naming names, but somebody was talking about cloud computing up there, right? It is like that all happens there. But what does it really mean? And all the changes that have been taking place. What does it mean to us as a care provider? What does it mean to us as senior leaders of organizations? What should we be aware about when it comes down to cloud computing?
Yeah, so the way the services has been offered over the past decade, the software services has changed dramatically, right? And so there are good side and bad side of it. But when I look at the cloud computing, I think of three topics, which would be IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, and then PaaS, which is platform as a service, and then SaaS, which is software as a service. And the latter one is probably more, you know, um, uh, uh, common to the leadership, if you want to talk non-IT language, because a lot of time, the COO owns some of the contracts as it pertains to the clinic operations, or even as, CNO. A lot of those goes back to those cloud computing, which means that we're not keeping all those information and data on our server and the software that we're using. We're paying based on the subscription that the vendor, supports and keep it updated. So they offer a very unparalleled flexibility and a scalability and really empower our business to offload infrastructure management. A lot of costs that we used to incur, not anymore, because we don't have to keep, for instance, our patient data on site on a server that has to be specifically designed and maintained. And from the cost perspective, by doing that, our operation can really now focus on core competencies, right? We can really accelerate innovation because the vendor is really providing that without us being worried about. Obviously, we're paying the subscription. So, as I said, from hosting critical application to enabling remote work, these cloud solutions are really the backbone of modern IT structure, but still organization, I would say they must prioritize the data, the data governance and management and the vendor management to maximize the cloud benefits. As I said, we have vendors that they don't pass through our process and security, although they provide really good services.
Yeah, it is. It's keeping up with the times and in the legal world. And then we talked about that earlier. Is that the legalities are not well defined as of this point in time, but I'm sure that laws will be changed to catch up with the time. So two things that I'm always concerned about is, chief operating officers or senior leaders need to make sure that there's enough capital available to be able to keep up with the times. This is not stuff that's just in the background that comes out of a contract and a monthly cost. There's real implications to that. One of the areas that I always say I had concern about is that, I think the Obama regulation of having all healthcare organizations having an EMR by 2020 was phenomenal. The biggest mistake, of course, was made that they did not require them all to speak the same language. And having this the cloud computing, having the ability to take information from multiple different systems into another server, so to speak, in order to be able to share that information and use a common language. Again, there's some more work that needs to be done to remove duplications with that. But again, an exciting world. And again, people need to raise awareness and understand the benefits of the healthcare organization to do this right. So with that said, of course, we're generating a massive amount of data, more so now than ever before, probably be calculated in terabytes per day. What do we do? Right back in the day, we just sent all of our paper to Iron Mountain to be stored deep inside of a mountain somewhere. And what do we do today with data management, with data analytics, and data storage, in order to be able to govern and keep the hospital and the healthcare system safe, and of course learn from it, right?
So I always said data is the currency of digital economy, right? And effective data governance is key to leveraging its value, right? So high quality data feeds analytic platforms, driving actionable insight and better decision making. So organization must invest in tools and processes that ensure data accuracy, compliance, and accessibility. So ultimately, analytics unlock the hidden opportunities of those data that we have within our systems and enabling smarter strategies across the industry. And that's where also where the AI comes to pair with those data that we have to provide a better predictive analytic model.
Yeah, so I'd like to add to that. I love the fact that we can now not, it's in the past it was hard to retrieve data because it was on paper. Today it is, on computers, and of course with cloud computing and other software opportunities, we can now visualize the data much quicker. And that is really, I like to see cockpit or command center set up in healthcare systems where we can look in real time on what is taking place, with having alerts put into place when AI recognizes that something is outside of a normal parameter, so we can take appropriate action against that. So this is where a lot of excitement is taking place. Again, as a chief operating officer, I would make sure that we have the right amount of capital as well as human capital dedicated to this, to ensure that we can drive safety and quality in all healthcare systems. All right, digital transformation. What are we looking for going forward, right? And how is that shifting the culture in the organization? And how can we make sure that we don't leave people behind?
I would say digital transformation is not just about technology. It is about reimagining how organizations deliver value. And I think this is very important that the COOs, as the operational leader in the organization, to understand and partner with the IT on that, because key components, yes, include modernizing IT systems, but then we're talking about integrating advanced tools, cultivating a culture of innovation. IT by itself cannot drive the organization. It's the organization's culture and the change management in that regard that leverages IT to get to that, right? And it's not the other way around. It's not just like, let's install Microsoft Office on all the PC and you do use it for these purposes. No, the organization needs to understand that we need to train our employees. They are the workforce that must embrace the technologies and embrace the methodologies behind the technologies, right? So transformation succeeds when the leadership bridges the gap between the vision and execution and aligning those strategy with a scalable solution. So, and I think that is a very important role for COO.
Yeah, I would add to that, one thing is that there's a bottleneck that exists today, that the number of requests going to IT to solve everybody else's problems is so great. There's no way that IT can meet the needs unless you build out a real workforce that is able to meet them, where the action is required in order to drive the outcomes. So again, it needs to be very strategic. We need to form stronger partnerships and understanding what we can do, and what we need to focus on in order to keep moving into the right direction. But our most valuable asset, sometimes we think it's the computer, but it's still the human being, and the key to our success going forward is to make sure that we evolve them into the future as well. I asked a long time ago when I was working in facilities administration, and I was walking around with the director of IT. He said, "Show me some of your IT closets." Right? Very few people have actually gone into an IT closet in an organization and talked to me about how things are working, how things are integrated, how things are operating, and they will tell you that there are 2,000 different pieces of software on any system. It's probably far greater than that. And we have to kind of sort it out how they all get connected. Of course, as technology has advanced significantly, and the ability to be able to have two systems talk to each other, even if they don't speak the same language, is very, very helpful. But talk a little bit about the responsibility of looking at the totality of the infrastructure from a strategic standpoint, and what would be a day-to-day type of responsibility of a COO to ensure that the system is safe, operational, and gets the right amount of attention?
So one of the things I do with all of our leadership, and it's not just the COO, is really to help them understand the entire IT and clinical IT's, concept, right? So they need to understand that a robust IT infrastructure is a foundation of business continuity and scalability, right? So when we talk about our budgets for the following year and our capital budget investment, so we always keep that in mind, right? Because they know that the robust IT infrastructure is necessary and it must support reliable data flow, efficient resource utilization, and rapid adaptability to technological advancement. Just we're talking about AI, right? So that futuristic mindset is not something that just CIO brings to the table because it impacts every corner of the health system. So when we talk about IT infrastructure, and for instance, we had a project back in the emergency room, which completed last week, we talked about the key components, which were included cloud integration, network security, disaster recovery plan. So an agile infrastructure ensures that organization can respond to emerging challenges and opportunity within confidence. When we go up, when we go down, to our upgrade, our EMR during downtime, the COO and CNO are a big part of these projects because they know the ramification on the system if we can't bring it up on time and the impact on the patient. So they are part of this discussion, and we bring them up to speed as to how much they need to know about the IT language without being too tech savvy on that.
Yeah, and an interesting part of it that I always remind people that all sounds really good, Ryan, but when the power goes up, what do we have to do? We have to go back to basics. So from a business continuity standpoint, especially in healthcare, we cannot forget we can all fall in love with technology, right? We should be able to make things easier, better, more robust, but we also have to remember that if the power goes off or a system fails, we need to know that how to do things on paper in order to continue to function itself. All right, the least favorite subject of all people, and an area of you're going to continue to learn as you pursue your law degree, regulatory compliance. What has changed and what needs to change?
So I would say there are two components. Number one, we have compliance frameworks like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, DSS, safeguarding sensitive data and maintaining consumer trust. And organization must really integrate this compliance into their technology workflow to really mitigate the risks and avoid penalties. Now, with the AI, this is brand new. So we don't really have policies and procedures. We don't have any case laws. It has not been challenged in the court yet. So these are all the new eras that it's going to be challenging for organization. There is no single week that I'm not part of the conversation with our legal team about some of the new vendors we're acquiring, the application that I developed myself in AI. And well, they're not worried about the codes that I put into this, but they're worried about other stuff. If you put it on our website, the liabilities, the answers that this application can produce when we ask about, when parents, for instance, ask about the patient. So these are very interesting and new areas that I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow and collaboration for everyone in the system to understand that it is not just the typical compliance and the rules that we need to know and be part of, but there's a whole new line of laws and regulation that we don't even have. It hasn't, even our government hasn't put out any rules and regulation on this yet, that it needs to be investigated and implemented at some point.
Yeah, the key is to ask the question before doing it, right? Sometimes we say we do and apologize after. In this case, make sure you ask the right questions and get to the bottom of that. All right, our favorite and some people the least favorite. Of course, the world post-COVID has really changed, where people are starting to work more and more remote, certainly in those areas that are non-direct patient interaction. Thoughts on how it has evolved since this really was put on steroids back in 2021, Where is it today, and where is it heading to?
So this is another area that, it's a lot of conversation around it. And any conference I go, the senior leadership discuss this, and there's a mixed feeling about it. So obviously from, an operational standpoint, a lot of our employees are on site. We have some remote employees, and especially those who are working in some of the areas like, medical record that they can have access and do auditing. 90% of my employees are remote. And so when we sit down and discuss about, this, the premature mixture of this remote work technologies in the professional landscape, we talk about how we can make these people more productive. So one of the things that, we have implemented and discussed with our COOs and other members of the team is that, because our employees are not on site, in order to make them productive, we turn everything into the project base with the set deadlines. So that, if my employee has a doctor appointment that they want to go in the middle of the day, but they want to take 3 hours at the end of the day, sure. As long as we get this to the board on Tuesday and we show the progress, that's fine. Does that apply that every section of our operation? Absolutely not. We still need people with boots on the ground. But we found a way around it. And, we say that, we need to we need to overcome this challenge. Now, I can tie that to one of your slides, think about cybersecurity, which we're still concerned about, because as I said, organization must address the challenges like cybersecurity risks and work-life balances to really sustain this evolution in workplace model of by having people work as a remote employee.
Yeah, interesting. So, in conversation with many of my clients and some of the meetings that I go to, we always say that our aim is for each employee to be at 85% productivity consistently. Can flex up to 100% a couple of days here and there. Otherwise people lead to burnout. On the flip side, hybrid workers, again, this is not scientific, but 65% productive. But they will tell you that they can be more productive in less time. Like if they're in the office with all the other noises that take place, it takes longer to complete the job. So I think that what you're spot on. What you say is that as long as there's a measurable objective and the quality work that is being performed, I think there's a future for remote work that takes place. Bringing those folks in from time to time to have to shake hands and build relationships and partnerships remains essential. And that's one thing that's lost when you're just sitting behind a computer in a virtual world, and that is important for the continuity and for the team, as well as driving innovation itself. But yeah, interesting days ahead, and I will say that the millennials, the youngest in our workforce who have grown accustomed in this hybrid world, or maybe even total remote work, good luck bringing them back into an office. That might be one. That might be a lot more difficult than we think it is. All right. Future of trends in IT. I think it would be great too for you to talk a little bit about what you are doing with your AI app and make that a combination. So tell us a little bit about what is to come, and tell us a little bit about what you are doing.
So I would say the emerging trends like quantum computing, edge computing, AI-driven automations are really shaping the next wave of IT innovation. You look at the technology in our car manufacturers, self-driving cars. In healthcare, one of the things that I've been working on over the past few years is really how do we build a patient-centric AI application that assists doctors with a better clinical decision support. And it's interesting, we build over 45 applications, over 30 specialties, and I've been used for the past 2 years as a pediatrician myself. I use it all the time. I train other doctors, residents how to use it. And there was a paper came out a couple of days ago, and on New York Times, they talked about how AI did a better job diagnosing patients than the other groups of the physicians in diagnosing and making a better diagnosis. Obviously, there's lots more into just making diagnosis, but it just shows the potential, and the application that we build, it's really creating not only the diagnosis, but also treatment, the prognosis, creating a proper clinical documentation note is specific to that patient, creating a discharge summary and patient education, and providing that in multiple languages. These are the things that, as a physician myself, it would take us, hours in the clinic. Bring the iPad. Let's connect to the language line, right? Somebody will speak German. I don't speak German. Now I can get the technology put in front of them. The cost, how fast I can get the patient in and out, patient satisfaction, reducing physician burnout, better clinical documentation, which means you have a better claim and return of investment. And on the other side, the front facing, which is a patient facing, what we build for families after hour, over the weekend when the clinic is closed. A lot of people who visit urgent care and emergency room for primary care issues, that is not the best use of our healthcare budget, which, as you know, our GDP on healthcare is pretty high. So we're trying to reduce those by leveraging this technology. And we're doing a multiple pilot study at the University of Toledo. And I'm hoping that we can get something on a paper, very tangible at the end of the year, to show how we're leveraging this in that area of medical education, patient care, and also our streamlining the operational processes within the organization.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So personally, I think from an operations standpoint, the biggest noise maker and waste, essentially speaking, in healthcare is documentation. The amount of time that doctors, nurses, and anybody in between sits at the desk or at a computer and just typing away, well, we could much better utilize this time. I'm not smart enough, but I would love to come up with something a little bit better than a text-to-talk, opportunity when every interaction you have with a patient is automatically converted into a meaningful medical record, including helping with real-time, differential diagnoses and treatment plans. I think that if we can streamline the amount of clicks on a keyboard clinicians can make, I think that could truly bring joy back to being a clinician. Because if I work with lots of people, and they will all tell you that the art of medicine is almost lost because they are so bogged down by documenting every single last thing, just CYA, that I think there's a great opportunity there. So if anybody's listening out there, design, innovate something that takes away the 1,000 keystrokes per hour, and you'll make some very happy doctors and nurses in our healthcare facilities. All right. So with that said, I think that we had a really robust conversation, covered all of the areas. And Ryan, again, thank you very much for joining me in the conversation today. This will be posted, like all of it will be on my YouTube channel. It will be on LinkedIn for time to come. So please share this with your other healthcare leaders, emerging leaders, both medical and non-medical, because I think these topics are something that we need to continue to talk about. We need to forge, deep partnerships between the clinical and non-clinical world in order to be able to advance healthcare and utilize all these great new tools to the benefit of our patients. At the end of the day, it's the patients at the center of everything that we do. At least it should be, and we will become, patients will benefit from it. Ryan, any parting words before we close our conversation today?
I would say, first of all, I want to thank you for having this session again. These are very informative, especially for people where they don't know where to start. I would say, one thing that the leaders need to understand is resistance and change management. Even if they start from somewhere very small, it's better than not to start at all. And I would say, as my closing statement, that I believe together we can literally leverage AI to transform healthcare education, enhance our clinical workflows, and ultimately improve patient care.
Excellent. Thank you again, Ryan, for joining me, and I look forward to a conversation in the future. Our topics in the near future will be around next week, most likely on regulatory compliance and risk. And as you know, I have a topic per week for the next 15 weeks scheduled, every Wednesday, 12 o'clock, live on LinkedIn. If you have interest in presenting or being part of the conversation, reach out to me. Always love to have more than just myself. Have a great day, and we'll talk real soon again.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.